Hello everyone, this is Awkward Audrey and welcome to my art hour. Today we'll be going over another pre-process video where I talk about my process for starting an art project when I have an idea and I don't really know what I want to do with it. So today we'll be going over how I go through coming up with ideas, how I put those ideas together, how I incorporate that into a visual media, and then how I go about deciding what I actually want to do for my final piece before I actually do any of the actual work on my final piece. So, just so happens that last night I did not get so great a sleep, so this is going to be a great setup for for me explaining how my thought process works for you guys on less sleep than normal. We'll see how this goes. I think it'll be fun, but we'll see how this goes with that in mind. I hope that you guys enjoy this video and that this helps you in your adventures for starting your own art projects and realizing that it does take time. It can take some forethought, and sometimes it is. This is just my process for how I overcome roadblocks, mental blocks for creating my art. And this may be a way for you to help you on your journey with your art. It doesn't necessarily have to be my way, but I hope that it helps you. All right, with that in mind, let's take a look at what we'll be working with today. Hey Spencer, thanks for joining. So what we'll be working with today is very basic. We'll be working with pretty much notes that I have already written up. I wrote like a few pages of notes, and I found that it helps me personally, because I'm a tactile person, that I need to write stuff down. It helps me think thoughts through a little bit differently than if I were to type them up. I think that hey, thank you for the little thumbs up though. Waving back, I can't see you, but we can, a little thumbs up we can work with. Um, so going to college meant that I had to type up a lot of notes really fast, right? So I could write out a lot of notes, but in the end I wouldn't be able to write everything. You can't search your notes like you can. Hey Liz, thank you for joining. Can't search your notes on in paper like you can if it's in a digital format. The search function makes college way easier. And so even though I am a tactile person and I like writing, it helps me with memory, I had to kind of give that up in college so that I could take all the notes I needed to take in order to pass my classes. I'm kind of getting back into that now, so that when I go and I'm writing ideas and I'm processing my thoughts, I'm going back to kind of disengaging from that digital mindset, and I'm getting back into how to really use that in a way that works best for me. Now, for some people, it is speaking aloud. I don't really do that. This is as close as I'm ever going to get to that with these Facebook Live art hours. But for me personally, writing stuff down, it kind of helps me figure out what I'm thinking. So with that in mind, I did a little pre-work here on what I was thinking and how I wanted to go about pre-planning this art piece that I thought up of. And it's one of those things where I probably saw something that inspired me, or it was a word that really grabbed my attention. And on any other day, maybe that image or that word would not have stuck out to me, right? It wouldn't have meant anything compared to what it means to me right now. And that is part of the process. You kind of have to accept that there are ideas and there are processes that you have that are, when you're doing your creative endeavor, whatever that is, that it's going to work some days and not other days, and it's going to be very frustrating. But it is part of the process, and you have to kind of embrace that. There are going to be days when you are more in the mode for a specific idea or specific content, and not other days. So the other day, I really liked the idea of it was the word reflections. And especially when it came to looking at all the people in my Facebook feed getting excited about October, because let's be real, it's my favorite season. Because I really like dressing up for Halloween. Don't get me wrong, I really like Christmas and I love Thanksgiving and all. Like, really, it just like jump starts the joy for me and gets me into like the holiday mode of what winter and like of what autumn and winter brings for celebration. So I personally like Halloween, and so like for me, I'm also just like not a summer person. I don't do well in the heat. I prefer to stay indoors if I can. Uh, that's just me personally. That so that kind of mindset of me like seeing people get excited about this change in the seasons, this change in the weather, what people are looking forward to. Kids are going back to school. People are going to settle down into their routines for the long term, for the next 9 months when we don't have the summer weather to work with. And that kind of got me going. I was like, well, that's a very interesting idea, right? How do you go about conveying that into an art piece? So the themes I wrote down here. So this might sound a little scripted. These are genuine thoughts that I were having at the time, but now as I repeat them to you, they're going to sound a little scripted. Sorry. Uh, so like the themes that I wanted to touch on were like fall, autumn, change, and reflecting on one's life during times of change, especially when it pertains to mental health, because I feel like mental health is something that if you're taking the time to reflect, that you can only benefit mentally, because it grounds you and it makes you think about what you really want in life, what's really important to you. So, uh, so like, okay, all right, got my themes: fall, mental health, reflecting on your life and uh, what you want in times of change, right? Um, so then I went about just like listing, okay, those are my themes. What do I like about those themes? Like, what do I like about fall and autumn? Again, this is like behind the scenes stuff. It's kind of boring and is I'm kind of basic, so pumpkin spice latte is on this list. Okay, I like it, but it's part of this process, right? Anything goes, anything can go on this list. Um, that answers what do I like about fall and autumn, and any of it can then be later used to be discarded or used in the piece, right? So like the first one I really liked was the changing colors, especially like when it comes from the very vivid green to the very vivid red. I like a lot of color, and that's something, that transition is just so beautiful. Um, as I already mentioned, Halloween. I love Halloween and the creativity it spawns and all the cute outfits and the costumes and kids going out and getting candy. Me getting candy, the little kid in me wants candy, especially like chocolate and Reese's. Oh my god, so good. It makes me happy just thinking about it. Oh, that's my next list here. Was foods that become more readily available as it becomes harvest time. You get more different varieties of foods that come for like your pies, your spiced apple cider, your mulled wine, also super delicious. I like crunchy leaves. Leaf piles are fun, but I went for a walk the other day, and I'm really glad I went for this walk because I was able to reflect more on what I was going to do for this art hour. And one thing I noticed was that there was all these really beautiful green leaves, and some of them were starting to yellow at the top, right? And then there were some where like leaves just kind of died somewhere for whatever reason. The leaves died, and I was like, I need to grab those, and I need to put them in my hands. And I need to like make confetti out of it. It is so satisfying. And so that's, I put that on the list. It's the beginning of the school year. I think I liked my college years. I didn't like how much stress it put me under, but I did like going to classes and learning and being with people who were there to learn mostly. Group projects aren't all 100%, but that's something that I enjoyed, and I like it's one of those things that I hope to pursue as like, even if it's not in formal education, that I hope to pursue in my life. So beginning of the school year, I love it. I love it. Let's all learn, people. Harvest time, again, part of the food. It's also when little or big traditions start, you know, like, okay, we're going to start going, let's see, what are like, I don't know. So everybody has their own like little traditions, right? And if you have some, please let me know in the comments. Like that would be awesome. I'm gonna plow on here, but if you have ideas, I'd love to hear them. Uh, so like having like when you go to your school routine, like you have routines with the kids on okay, you gotta get up, gotta have breakfast, you gotta go to school. They come back and hopefully, you know, if you can at the end of the day, you're able to talk about what happened at school, have dinner on Fridays, have like a game night or a pizza night or a movie night or whatever tradition it is your family has. Uh, you know, football season is here. Looking at you, Liz, I know. I know it's a tradition that you love. And uh, and then it gets you forward into thinking about making costumes for Halloween. Like, what Halloween traditions do you have? What Thanksgiving traditions do you have? Christmas or holiday traditions do you have? And it's a you know like it's a pattern in life that you things you get to look forward to in the season that that really start right about now. There are you can have traditions throughout the whole year, right? But I feel like this is the time that all starts. Um, and then finally, the last thing I put on here was sweater weather. I like the fashion sales, like all the like Labor Day sales that are happening right now. It's really hard not to spend all my money on these really cute clothes. What? Just because I spent 18 hours watching football? Oh my God. How did you didn't do that by yourself, did you? I hope you had a group of people over. Oh, well, maybe the dogs were there. Maybe Ellie and Angel helped you out. Oh man. Um, I did not know it could be that long. That sounds exhausting to me. See, I'm not a football person. That's not part of my tradition, but it's certainly part of yours, and I am here for it. That is great. um, the dogs are here. Excellent. Excellent. Um, yeah. I hope you got tons of cute pictures. Cute pictures. You need to send me more cute pictures of Ellie, by the way. Like, just never assume that I don't want Ellie pictures, okay? um, all right, so that's it. Like, what for that one question, right? What do I like about fall and autumn? And so then go on to the like, what's the next question here? Uh, to ask yourself to kind of tie in more of these themes that I want to bring into this piece, or I may want to bring into this piece. I don't have to bring all of them in, right? That'd be too much. Infinite amount of ideas that can come from this. So what the next question I asked is like, what happens to one's physical, mental, and emotional health in fall, right? Because we've all heard of seasonal mood disorders. Effect of what is it? When you don't get as much sun and it affects your mental health, you do get sad. Yeah, sad. Seasonal affective disorder, I think, because it's sad. Um, so so like that's something that I personally as a Pacific Northwest lady who grew up in with overcast, and when I was 10 years old there was a year where it was 100 days of rain. Like that to me is my happy place, right? So overcast makes me happy. Having a warm cup of tea or a hot chocolate or whatever makes me happy. But that is not generally the case. If you want to have a better mood, you go outside and you know go out in the sun, and that stimulates a whole bunch of physical processes in your own body, right? Just biologically speaking, that's how humans are built. So that's something to consider, right? Like, so okay, those days are getting shorter. Um, there's the back to school frenzy, right? Things are changing. Outdoor activities start to wind down as the weather starts to get a little bit inclement, right? Right. Like when water slides start closing, golf courses aren't really as fun anymore. Uh, just all sorts of different physical activities that you would normally do in the summer start to wind down because the season starts to change and becomes less pleasant because it's not warm out and sunny out. Um, let's see, people settle into their more long-term routines and responsibilities after summer activities. And after just giving us a little bit of contemplation, Um, Something that I realize is that from time to time, is that every day is an anniversary for someone about something significant. This is nothing really to do with fall, but it is about tradition, about um, annual like anniversaries, right? I just had this thought, and I thought I'd put it down. Is that you probably I probably assume that when I say anniversary, I mean like a wedding or a celebration, but that is not always the case, right? So many things happen in our life that define certain seasons, that uh, that will affect you for years to come. They're going to affect how you approach the season. Like for like the worst one I can think of is like you have a death in the family, right? That that is the annual reminder of that person that was in your life and how they affected your life, and how it's a reminder that they're gone is important, right? It's part of your annual tradition, and as times change, and that can happen at any time for any reason, to anyone. So when you're meeting somebody, you don't know what they might be going through when it comes to those um, those times of transitions. And I think when, especially when the holidays are coming up, and it becomes more apparent that that person isn't there, uh, that uh, that is something that people probably think about more and dread more and or embrace more. All right. That got a little heavy, but uh, we're just gonna keep on going. That was my personal reflection. These are just ideas of what do I like, and what are some themes that I might want to bring to this piece, right? About reflections and how it has to do with the changing of seasons, specifically fall and autumn. Uh, and so I kind of was wondering, okay, what is the best time for doing personal reflections? When do we take the time to do that? And it um, it actually was a lot simpler than I thought. I thought I was going to have a whole list, but it turned out to me that there was three real times when you think about your life, what you want. Um, is when you have downtime. There's literally nothing else to do. You can't distract yourself with TV or with like other forms of entertainment. You just have downtime, and you get to just unwind and let go of what's happening, and you really just get to reflect. Um, Times of change where it's kind of forced upon you that something is different, and you have to kind of adjust. You maybe don't have to make any like large decisions, but it will affect. Like there are times of change where you have to really think about what you want. And then the final one was when a significant decision is imminent. You have to think about it. You've been putting off that application to that job that you really wanted, and the deadline is coming up, or you feel like your relationship with somebody significant is there, right? Um, is uh, is It's about to change, right? So you have to think about what's important, right? Um, so like times of change on that's kind of an image of like times of change, downtime, changes happening. Best time for a personal reflection. And I know there's probably more, but to me that's those three ideas: downtime, times of change, significant decision is imminent. If you have any more ideas, let me know. Yeah, let's see. Uh, there was some more written here. I think I'm gonna bypass this. My voice is getting kind of tired, and I feel like I just want to do more art. I do want to talk about my process like this. Um, all right. So I'm just gonna skip a couple paragraphs there. They're important to me. I'm glad, but they're not necessary for what we need to talk about today. So I have a lot of ideas listed on those pages that can be combined in an infinite number of ways. Um, and after looking it over, I came up with a kind of a specific idea, which was that there is a person at the edge of a lake trying to reach a red leaf that was floating on the lake, or it was a person uh, because right now at this particular point, there are a whole bunch of berries. This is silly. It sounds silly. when I'm saying it out loud. But like when you go, like this is the time where berries really start to come to fruition and people go berry picking. So maybe um, to me, like having that reflection off of a lake, of having a person, just one person in the scene, and you can see them in somewhere in the picture, and like the lake is imminent, the reflection is imminent, and they're doing an activity, and it kind of to me that like sparked a lot of interesting ideas on how I could go about achieving that feeling. Uh, so like so I wrote some of those details down, like rippling water, uh, arms and legs, no, arms and legs, arms and hands, kind of reaching and grabbing. Um, the bright red that would be like bright red in a blue green scene that would be like the berries or the leaves that would really stand out and kind of draw your attention to that specific item. Um, like a blue sky with migrating birds, like a melancholy face or posture of this person, um, close details and focus with a blurry background, like just adding different textures and dimensions to this piece. Um, and this person could be a small figure in the piece. They could be like really tiny in this huge, like lake picture, to emphasize how minuscule and alone such times can sometimes be, or just how intimate that moment can be when you're having that personal reflection. Um, and like honestly, one thing I kind of want to explore more personally, and how I express ideas is with the age of a person, because there's a lot of symbology behind what age a person is, when they are making this reflection, right? Like the reflection of a kid who's like 8 is going to be different from a person who is 80, right? They're going to be reflecting on very different things because they're at a very different point in life, right? So what do I want to say with this person this figure that's going to be in my picture, and what age would be the best way to represent that? Yeah, so that those were some feelings and ideas that I had. Those are some visual ideas that I had. Uh, and let's see. And so from this point on, I have to figure out. I actually didn't realize that I had this diagram in my mind. Um, but if it finds out, I found out that um, I personally am a very detailed person, and I want to be able to add all the details that I want, because there's so many cool ways to emphasize an idea, and if what I'm emphasizing is like this big on the page and it's a huge canvas or a picture or whatever, it's not gonna there's no point in putting too much detail into it, right? So there has to be a balance. How much detail do you put into your piece? So with that in mind, I'm going to switch the camera and we're going to start. I'm just going to draw a quick diagram really quick of what uh, we I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to start just doodling some ideas of what I had, and how I want to maybe incorporate that into a larger piece. I just have my sketchbook. I just have some markers if I want to kind of play with color, and I do have my mechanical pencil and eraser, but I find personally, this is just me personally, that when I sketch, I actually do better when I use an ink pen, for a very specific reason, because if it is a pencil, I'm going to want to edit it. I'm going to want to make it look more polished and more finished. And ultimately, that's not the purpose behind a sketch. You want to do that on your final product. When you're sketching, the urge to make that perfect and have it not be your, like, don't want to put that effort on work that's not going to be your final product. There is a time and place to do that, like if you were learning how to work with different pencils, right? Because there's a variety of pencils to work with, different materials and different weights of pencils. So like totally, yes, pencils and sketching should go together. But for me personally, when I'm trying to get ideas down, it helps me to just process with a pen and then I'm not committed to that per se. It just helps me get ideas down, and then it's down, and I don't get to mess with it too much before I have to go on to the next idea. Okay. Ta-da! All right. So that was a lot of talking. Thank you for bearing with me, Spencer and Liz. If you have any ideas, I am welcome. This is like right now the world is like this picture can be a collaborative work here, right? So if you have any ideas of what do you like about fall or autumn, or some tradition that you have with with the football that happens about this time of year, what kind of visual ideas that you have, like colors or textures, or a moment that you want to see, just let me know. I'm interested. I'm interested in what you have to say, even if it doesn't end up in this piece. I think it's cool that you would be thinking about it. Okay, we'll do the camera switch. Dun, dun. Okay. Very simple, very cheap. Very cheap options we got here today. And then turn on the light so we can see what's going on here. Okay, let's start with the sketchbook. I think we're just going to take this and chuck them. We're just going to use a pen. So, how detailed do I want to go? Let's take a look. So, yeah, we'll just have that be our caption. Okay. Yes, Team Crayola. Okay, so this is just an idea that I had. I'm sure that there's, if I gave this a bit more thought, it could be better, but this is a pretty good baseline, I think, for starting where you want to go. So we're going to start with a spectrum. Spectrum being from how many details do you add? Just vague details, maybe even no details, to intricate. So when you have really vague details, you have pretty much something that, let's see, is there enough space here? Move this up a little bit. There we go. It gets pretty, there's not really much you can do, right? It is very abstract. It can convey a feeling, it can convey an idea, but it's really up to the viewer to decide what that feeling or idea is. There's nothing really there to draw you in, or besides like the one or two details that are provided, right? There are a lot of different pieces. Usually it's when I think of something like this, I think of a painting that just has gradients of color. There is no figure, there is no harsh lines, there's no shapes. It's just texture and color. And they're very beautiful pieces, evocative pieces, but they're very vague, right? So it leaves pretty much the whole experience up to the viewer. Okay. There are 5 points here along this line. Just gonna add them. Okay, so then you can add a few more details, right? You can go and be pretty straightforward with your idea. Make sure I spell this right. Okay, straightforward. Very simple. Like you usually think like a stick figure or an object like an ice cream cone, and it has a smiley face on it. Very simple, conveys an idea. I think a simple, like just an idea off the top of my head would be a stick figure with ice cream that had fallen off, like ice cream that had fallen off their cone. That's very sad. You immediately see what's happening, and you can there's not much more to it, but you can relate to what is happening in the picture. So then we move on to adding more details, which means, okay, warrants a second look. Is that how you spell it? Warrants. We'll do an A. I think that's how you spell it, with an A. Warrants a second look. Which means, okay, so maybe like here with the straightforward, it was a stick figure. And they had an ice cream cone, and it had fallen onto the ground and it's melting. It's super sad. Right, very simple idea. Idea conveyed here, but you can understand the story that is happening. Warrants a second look. So maybe this would include like a t-shirt or a logo or a flavor of ice cream. It could convey like more facial features. So like you take if you were to take a closer look at it, you'd get more details and you'd get more of the story behind the idea that is being conveyed, right? And then you go on to the next one, which is for me, it tells a saga. Right, so okay, so you don't get the whole story with a second look. In fact, it could be a whole street scene where there is a kid with dropped ice cream and there's a person there's a person driving by on their cell phone, and it's a hot summer day, and and there's just a whole bunch of details that you can add to the point where the more you look at it, the more of the story of the moment that you're trying to capture is unfolding. And that in some ways is very compelling storytelling. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but it also can be, it depends on your audience, doesn't it? You have to consider who's going to be the viewer and who is going to want to look at your saga that you have portrayed in your picture. And how much detail do you really want to go for that? And I know some artists who that is exactly what they want to do. They love making things intricate. They love adding layers and layers and layers of symbology into their pieces. And then I know I've read some artists that went, yeah, I worked way too hard on this piece. I could have simplified this whole process and gotten like half a year back of my life. So then you have to find the balance of how detailed do you want that story to be. And then finally, get to super intricate, you come back to the beginning. It goes back to being very abstract. There are so many details that you can't see what's going on. There maybe is a pattern to it. There may be so much symbology that at some point it just becomes just as abstract as if it was very vague. So that is kind of what I have here for how detailed do I want to go. And ultimately it comes down to how let's see, how it would be a good way to put this. How to tell a story that connects with the viewer. And that is ultimately the goal here, isn't it? Is that we're making art and we want it to connect with the person who is looking at it. And when I contemplated that a little bit more, I came to the conclusion that one of the most important things that you can consider when you're doing art is that literally the viewer can be anyone you choose. And it's something I would highly consider you guys to consider, would be that the viewer doesn't have to be like the whole world. It can just be one person. And it could be that viewer is future you, right? So you make something, if you're going to work on something, it doesn't have to be for everyone. It could just be for yourself. And go out there, make art, make something that makes you happy, even if it's not perfect or it's just a doodle on a Post-it note. and you'll make a note or make something that will make future you happy, right? That you did that you tried it, that you went through the process, and that you produced something that made you happy. Ultimately, that is what I want you guys to do. Okay, so with all that in mind, gotten deep here again, we got to get more practical here. I got a piece of art I want to make. How much detail do I want to go into? What elements do I want to include in my piece? And what story do I want to tell, ultimately? So let's go back to the notes I made. The notes. Let's see. Let's just kind of start with rippling water. And at this point, it's just me kind of playing with the medium that I'm working with, right? So right now I'm going to be doodling, but maybe later I will. But maybe I wanted to doodle with some colors, right? So let's see what it looks like with line work. Some of these ideas look good with line work, and then some with beautiful Crayola super tips. So let's try rippling water. Let's see. So when I think rippling, what do I think of when I think rippling water? I think, particularly when it comes to the idea of reflections, I think like image distortion. But a really easy way to convey that is with just circles and ovals, right? So this has less detail. This has more detail, but maybe doesn't convey the right amount, the motion, right? Here we go. We had drop here. Ooh, that'd be interesting. Have waves coming out. Maybe make it like an acorn or something. Yeah, we'll make an acorn. Yeah. Ooh. Let's see, yeah. Really simple way to do an acorn is just to do like boxes. Let's see. Let's move this a little bit closer. The camera a little closer. There we go. I think. There we go. Come on, focus. Focus. Okay. Okay, so it's like there's water splashing. Let's see. So I really like the idea of a lake. So say I want to do a like just for grins. I don't have any square canvases, but if I were to have a square canvas, what would I want? I think it'd be interesting to have the lake be the bottom half, and then the detailed work on the top half. That is one way I could go about it, where there is the lake, and then there is like a forest or park up here, and then having a figure somewhere in here that is reflecting. Let's see. And I like asymmetrical work. So like this may be pretty symmetrical, right? It's down the middle. But I like asymmetrical work because it means your eye kind of has to move across the paper or across the piece. So I think let's start over here. Let's have the person have a person over here. And they're contemplating the lake, right? Their arms are relaxed. Maybe they have their hands in their pockets. Got a big jacket on with a scarf. Hat. Yeah, something like that. Very simple. And they're looking out at the lake. Let's see. Shoreline. And like some trees, maybe. Over here would be a little more blurry, right? So maybe out here there'll be a leaf that has fallen because it's fall. Well, okay, bad joke. Bad joke. And there's a leaf out here that's making ripples on the water. This person kind of is looking a little contemplative about, right? Okay, I kind of like this posture here. It's a very relaxed posture. Let's see. So look kind of, hey Terry, thank you for joining. So I'm thinking, no, I like that posture, but is this really what I want for this picture? So with the idea that I might be putting this figure into this piece, we're going to just flip the page, and we're going to just sketch that page. I'm going to just tell you right now, if you ever intend to photocopy, I don't recommend drawing on the back of pictures and using both sides, right? Because if you use both sides, when you go to photocopy it, there's always going to be an image of what's on the other side, and it makes it a little more difficult to just convey what's on one side, right? So I don't recommend doing this if you intend to photocopy, but because we're just sketching and we're just going through these ideas, we don't have to, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so, all right, so this figure here, what do we want this figure to be doing? This figure in this lake scene, who is in deep contemplation, could be in a lot of different postures, right? They could be sitting at the edge of a lake. So let's try sitting. Let's try a sitting position. Let's see. Let's try really relaxed. Kind of got, leaning forward, looking down. Oh, those are some big feet. Maybe be interesting if they were sitting on like a fence or a tree branch. Maybe a tree branch with their feet dangling. That's an interesting idea. So maybe, okay, let's kind of just sketch out an area, a tree branch for them to sit on. That doesn't look very comfortable. We'll do a little bit more forward leg there. There you go. So maybe something like that. Okay, let's see. Maybe they are reaching out for something. Like when I was out for my walk, I loved touching all the crunchy leaves. There weren't many, but I enjoyed touching them. So maybe this person is walking along a path and they have their arm reached out and they're just touching the bushes, right? So maybe they're doing this. Again, hand in the pocket, but reaching out. That's a long arm. We'll make this the hand. There we go. Oh, I don't like that. I go? Maybe a flower. Maybe a leaf. There's so many different types of leaves. Can't choose. Right? So okay, so you kind of get the idea, right? That there is a this is part of the process. What do I want in this picture? And it can be a long process. This is not set in stone. I really wish my camera would focus where it's supposed to focus. So I can do this pretty much infinitely, right? I kind of like this the best. I got to kind of express a hand gesture. The posture still kind of gives me what I was looking for, with it's a kind of with relaxed shoulders and a relaxed hand in the pocket, right? But still motion is happening, which I like. I personally think best when I'm walking. Sitting and contemplating is very difficult. I have to be moving a little bit to occupy myself, so kind of occupy my body so that my brain can just focus on that instead of how still I am. So for some people it's different. Yeah, I think this is what I want to go with for right now, is this person walking. Okay, so these are details that I liked. How on earth did I put that into a scene like this? One, I think if we're going to think about reflections, right, then maybe having it so this figure is bigger than what this person currently is, right? Having this person bigger and maybe like the object of this piece is the figure being bigger and being in the forefront, and then the lake being in the background. And maybe it's a foggy morning. Ooh, I like that. It's there's details of the forest, but it's a foggy morning. So this person's moving along, and they're just kind of grabbing that crunchy leaf, and they are walking along nature, just contemplating and reflecting on life. I think I like that. So we're going to put that together on this page. Let's see if I can get this going. So now that I kind of have that idea in mind, let's go in with some colors. Figure out what colors I want to use. How's life treating you, Terry? Oh, is Terry there? Terry might not be there anymore. Whew. Okay. What colors do I want to use? I think just get out all the colors that I know I might want, and then pare it down if I don't need all the colors. Ooh. Let's see. But do I want this? No, I don't. That's too bright. Too bright. Ooh, I love all these blues and greens though. So pretty. Okay, so for like the nature, I think I like these colors right here. Anything else? I have the other colors that I want. They're very pretty. Maybe some brown. Yeah. Okay. So I have quite a few colors here that I can work with. Okay. Since I know that I don't have a square piece of canvas right now, one way or another it's going to look, one way or another is going to be a rectangle. So I think if I want it to be landscape, I want, or if I'm going to be painting a landscape, we're going to do it in landscape form and not portrait. Although you can certainly do either. So let's see. We're going to have the figure. What do I want the figure to look like? We'll do the figure in brown for right now. And we're going to, you know what? I'm just going to take this whole page out. This is our canvas. Okay, so the figure I want to be the central focal point. Oh. Okay, this is where I think I'm going to just kind of settle in for a second. Not really explain my processing, but just do it. Let's see. What do I want this person to look like? Person wearing sweatpants? Yeah, this person's relaxed. We'll have them wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. And some wrinkles. Call it good. Hey, Jason, thank you for joining. Oh, hi, Kathy. Oh, my goodness. Of course, the moment I'm not paying attention, and I'm just focusing on what I'm drawing, a whole bunch of people show up. Thank you for joining. Currently, where we are in the process is I have, we'll just do a brief recap so everybody knows what's going on. Look at the pens. These pens like to roll. What I had done earlier is I went through and came up with ideas for what I wanted to do for reflections, themes being fall, mental health, reflecting on one's life during times of change. And yay! Excellent! Awkward Audrey on stereo. Oh yeah. So went through like what do I like about fall and autumn? What are some things that happen that affect your physical or mental or emotional health around this time of year? Some of the themes that we touched on were traditions, changing colors, holidays are approaching, foods, delicious foods are like a different menu starts to appear because of it's harvest time. You settle into traditions and routines. and taking the time for personal reflection in these moments is very important, even though it's very difficult. It's difficult to have times of reflection when there's a lot of action required. When there's downtime or times of change, or when a significant decision is imminent, that is a time for reflection. Let's see. And so the idea that I have come up with was that I want a lake scene, a landscape scene, and I'm going to have a central figure. Hey, Sam, thanks for joining. That the central figure, there's going to be a single figure. It's not going to be a bunch of bustling people in a lake scene, walking kind of it has in a contemplative state, and it could, and there's a lot of different images that I liked about that could bring to the table. So that's what we're going through. Is I'm going through the list of details that I thought would be visually interesting, and we're kind of adapting them to see how much, how far I want to go with that. See what I like and what I don't like, and what I want to keep and what I don't need to keep. Okay, so we have this person here. I don't feel like giving them a hat, so we're just gonna have them have hair. You can see their hair. Let's see. Do we want long hair? Let's do long hair. Let's be a lady contemplating, right? Let's see. So she's wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and she's reaching out and she's touching leaves, right? So let's go. And right now I kind of fiddled with the posture, and now we're going in on this piece. We're doing colors. We're figuring out what colors we want. Okay. Let's do a lake. Okay, so here she is on the path, right? On the path. Oh boy. And yeah, if you guys have any ideas, I am certainly welcome to them. Like, do you have any traditions? Anything that are there any images that help you provoke reflection? Do you for instance, I like Halloween, so like that would be something I might want to include, maybe not in this picture, but in the future pictures. For me it's a lake, but for somebody else it might be a hike on a mountain, or it could be kids playing in at school. These are all different ideas that a person can use for this theme of reflections. So if you guys have any ideas, I'm welcome to hear them. You don't have to, but I would love to hear what you guys think. Okay, so this person's walking along a path. Paths around a lake are usually not straight. So let's see. We'll kind of have this be this, and then kind of it'll disappear over here, maybe, and it starts winding around to the lake, right? Here we go, got the path. Put it in orange. I'm not sure I like orange. Fireworks, yes. Oh, so colorful. Oh, that would be so good for a lake scene. Okay, so let's see, let's do some trees. Let's do some trees here. Do I like that texture? It's, maybe I'm gonna switch that up. Maybe I'll do that. Right? Very simple tree. Very simple evergreen tree. Let's see, how would I want to do so that is a coniferous tree, right? Coniferous is like evergreens essentially, and deciduous are the ones that have leaves that fall. I think that's the main difference. That's my main difference anyway. Let's see how we maybe want a whole row of those types of trees. They have green on the bottom, right? Green on the bottom. But then they're starting to get, oh, I need my yellow. Your yellow. Oh, maybe I do need this color. You can see that the seasons are changing and they're getting yellow at the top. Maybe it's just a little bit here, right? Not all the trees are doing it, but they're starting to. So you can see it's happening. It's starting to happen. And there's, let's see. I like this color. This color is a nice, this is a very, very green color, but it's less natural looking. I like this color more. Doesn't say what it is though. Oh well. It's kind of more of an olive green. There'd be some brush, right? Some brush happening. And if you wanted to add more details, there could be like a dog, somebody playing with their dog, playing fetch. Let's see. So now we're going to reflect that in the water. Oh, somehow I really like that. That looks really cool. Okay, well, I like that technique. Maybe I'll be using that. Hey, Cindy, aka Mom, aka Awesome Sauce person. All right, so this would be more blurry, right? There'd be less details if I were to go in, I think, with this on the lake. And then I kind of like the idea that here you kind of get a view that isn't up here, right? So you can actually see, oh, this is not a clean cut marker here. It's got some texture to the side, which is cool, but it's not what I was looking for. So maybe you can see some clouds that you can't see up there because the image doesn't allow for it. It gives you some insight to what is happening beyond the borders of the canvas. Let's see. Get some yellow leaves going on here. This is random texturing here. And let's see. And then what do I want here at the lake's edge? Let's do some grass. Let's do some like cattails. Dun, 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 dun. So I did that very simply, right? Like this is just a concept sketch. Like there's nothing too interesting here, but I'm just playing with the different elements. And from there it might lead into elements that I keep in my final picture. Okay.
Yes, some happy little cattails. Call me Babette. Okay. So, all right, I think I like the feel of this. There's a lot that I like about this in general that I can work with for when I go to bring this general sketch to a canvas or to a painting. I think if I want to do reflections, I think honestly, watercolor would be the way to go. I like, there is a distinct focus here. This is where your eye is originally drawn to, and then it kind of goes, there's a distinct line for you to follow. So you're kind of drawn in where this path is, and your eye will move across the page or across the piece like that. And then as you go through, you can kind of pick up details of the scene that bring you in and tell a story. Let's see. Some things that I think could be improved upon is it's not really clear what she's doing over here. It looks like she is grabbing foliage, but we're not sure why. She just kind of is. Is there a way to kind of convey reflection more in what she's doing? Is this like more purposeful than it looks right now? Do we want it to be less purposeful? There's a few different ways you could go with that. I do like that she's in her like a very relaxed attire, in her sweatshirt and her sweatpants. I do like her in this nature scene. I like that she is alone. Sometimes I feel compelled to add more creatures, right? Like a dog or a squirrel or birds or whatever. And maybe I will add some birds. You know what? I want to do that. I will. I'll add some birds here in the reflections. They're not actually in the picture itself, but they are reflected in the lake. I kind of like that. So we'll just do like a really small flying V. Right? Kind of see what's happening beyond the picture. So I like this gesture. I don't know if there is a better way to do it or not. I'm open to suggestions, of course. But I think in general, I like how this has turned out, and this is a piece that I would want to make into a larger, more detailed, more professional looking piece, not Crayola super markers on my sketch paper, and not like this. Some of the techniques that I liked the techniques I used for the reflection trees. I wouldn't use them on the reflection, I would use them for actual trees, but I do like that texture that it gave. Let's see, yeah, so that's where I am at right now. We have about 20 minutes left in the art hour. So I think what we're going to do is now that I've kind of figured out what elements I want, we'll do one more pre-sketch drawing, but with more detail. Or more refined details, not necessarily more details. I think in order to do that, we will just use my pen. My handy dandy, fine tipped rolling ball pen. I'm going to put my markers away for the time being because they're rolling off my table. I'm going to let them roll on the floor instead. Okay. So. This was, let's see. Kind of want this to be a little bit lower, I think. And at this point, I would probably look at reference photos. see. Oh, the gesture of a very realistic look is very realistic looking. But if you put her hand in her pocket and just had her walking along, it would change. Yeah, the one of tranquility. So I guess the question is then, do I want that? Do I want the tranquility? Because I think you're right. I think they would just be her walking along and just enjoying the park or the lake. Let's see. I want her right here. That is the question. Okay. So I'm gonna have, let's see, does that look like a good path? It looks like a decent path. Right? Yeah. Yeah, this does have a lake pattern feel to it, doesn't it? I can't help it. Okay, so in the path. Let's see. Trees. Right? Lake pattern is so cool. Let's see. So I think we want some details here that indicate, that kind of inform us what's happening back here. That way, if we have kind of a piece of information up here that is very detailed, and the same idea back here but has less details, you will get you'll know that they're the same thing. So like if I'm able to include a tree here, with colors and whatnot and texture and shape, I'll be able to kind of do it here but over with a simplified look. So maybe, when I was going on my walk yesterday, I really liked there's these overarching trees. So this doesn't have overarching trees, but I think I want to include one. So that's what we're going to do. I think we're going to have an overarching tree reaching over. This feels like a game right now, right? Where her space is lit up because that's where she's located. Do I want that same layout? Yeah. Kind of want. Do we want her looking out at the lake, or do we want her grabbing something? Or maybe she's already grabbed something. Maybe. Oh, you know what? I think I know what I want. I think I know what I'm gonna do. She's gonna be kind of looking at the lake. This hand will be in the pocket. See? I don't know what you mean, Mom. I do not know. And maybe she's kind of absent-mindedly hitting stuff with a stick or something. Colors and whatnot and textures and shape. It does, doesn't it? Yeah. The Awkward Audrey theme song. Just name a whole bunch of stuff. She could be waving to someone in passing or simply touching some leaves. Whether she is jogging, that this would determine her action. Maybe. Jogging for so okay, this is where idea meets skill level, right? I'm not as good at drawing jogging as I am at walking. So if I were to do that, if I were to do jogging, I'd have to do a few more practice runs before this. So I like that idea though of her jogging and contemplating. Do I though? 'Cause to me, kind of, I like the stillness of the picture. I don't know how I would convey like she's being super thoughtful if she's running, even though that is very true. That when you run, you do get into deep thought. So I don't know, Jason, what do you think? What would be a good way to convey somebody jogging that's still contemplative? Maybe we'll give her a ponytail. Her head ended up being quite large. Yeah, the peacefulness of it. Let's see. What would her hand look like? That, I guess she's kind of dragging it along the ground. Yeah. She's looking out at the lake. And then that way kind of her eye also is about this length. So you really are looking at her and then you're following her eye line with where your eyes were already going to go. So I think that kind of pulls the piece together. I like the idea of her looking at the lake. Okay. So these are leaves. Very quick sketch leaves. Okay. Okay. Or maybe a good way to do jogging would be that like she's taking a break and you can see she's out of breath and she's kind of looking out at the lake slightly hunched over as she takes a quick break. That would be a way to do jogging, I think, and still show contemplativeness. Like she doesn't have to look at the lake. She could just stand and do nothing, right? But she's looking at the lake because it compels her, right? Grass, grass, weeds, weeds, da 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 da. Okay. Let's see. Ripple, ripple, ripples, kind of coming from off the shore. Maybe. Let's see. Get some trees back here. So she's pretty close. This is a bend that's pretty close to us. And joggers taking a break often put their hands on their wrists, I think. That actually sounds about right. Because they'd be checking their pulse, looking at their times, like if they have a watch. If they have earbuds in, they might be switching up their music. Okay, so I think, okay, so this is all starting to kind of blur together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of define these lines. Make it more distinct. All one continuous line. So you can see it's this, and then back here is a little bit more chaotic. Definitely put my hands on my waist when I stop running. Yes. See, there we go. Actual runner. Oh, waists. Waist. I don't know why I thought wrists. Waists. Okay. So here's a few distinct shapes here. Kind of the rest gives texture, but it's not necessary. Okay. And then cloud with birds flying overhead. And maybe having something over here causing a disturbance, like a leaf or a fish or something. All right. Waist. Okay. So there we go. That is the pre-planning process before you actually go into doing an art piece, or at least my pre-planning process. I'm sure other artists have different processes. Like maybe they start with drawing and not with making lists. I make lists. I'm sorry, that's how I roll. So this is, but this is, I think, a good start, and maybe what I'll be doing next week. You know what? Yeah, that's what we'll be doing next Sunday. I will put this into a painting format of some kind, and we will be fleshing out the details and actually completing a piece. Yeah, I kind of like the stick too. People are fiddly, right? I'm fiddly. I like the stick. Okay, so that's it for today. So just to thank you very much. I'm glad you were able to see it, even if it was kind of towards the tail end of the process. I'm glad you were able to be here, at least for the recap. So what I did was I asked myself, okay, what was I inspired by? And I was inspired by two things. I was inspired by the idea of reflections, and and the idea of seasons changing. The idea of seasons changing. Those are the two things that kind of inspired this process. Then I went through and I asked myself, like, what themes did I want to touch on? Maybe what did I like about fall and autumn? What happens to one's mental health during this time? And just pretty much thought vomiting and seeing if there's anything that stuck, right? Ultimately, what it brought me to is this list of image of details of ideas which could be visually interesting, and how to maybe put that into a piece. And I got a little sentimental. But ultimately I wanted to make sure, I think that this was something that I really wanted you guys to look at. Right? There's a lot of work that goes into getting a piece started, and kudos to artists that are able to just do it on the fly. I think I'm a long way off from being one of those people, but if I keep practicing, it'll be a smoother process, right? So I encourage you all to do the same thing. So then, let's see, actually, so there is it was a two-part thought process here. Eventually, in part of the process, I got into how detailed do you want to go into a into a piece, right? And I kind of came up with this diagram. And I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but hey Liz, thanks for joining. We got us at the recap here. I kind of came up with this continuum of how to decide what details you want to add, because ultimately, how many details is going to affect how you tell a story to the viewer. So, like, how would you want those details to tell a story that connects with the viewer? And it starts with vague, goes from abstract, like it's pretty much nothing. It's texture and it makes you feel something. That's awesome. To straightforward, like a stick figure that dropped an ice cream cone, to more details that warrants a second look. Like if you were to look more at this figure that was had dropped like a kid that had dropped ice cream cone, there could be like a logo on the t-shirt, a flavor of ice cream, more detail in the face to convey what the emotion was, things that would warrant a second look. Then more details, you would tell the saga. There's so many details that you could look at it all day and you'd find something new and interesting. And then finally back from vague to intricate, back to abstract, that the ideas and the themes of the details you add would be so intricate that it would fall back into an abstract picture again. So this is the continuum that I had here. I kind of figured out for myself on how detailed do I want to go. And I'm sure there are more ways to put this. I'm certainly interested if you guys have ideas about what this looks like. I would love to hear it. So how detailed do you want to go to tell a story? And ultimately, who are you telling the story to? And I think really, 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 really want to drive this home, guys. For you guys watching, something for you to consider, that the viewer can literally be anyone you choose. It could be the whole world. It could be a birthday card to a friend. It could be a painting that you want to put in somebody's home where their company is going to see it, right? But ultimately, something I really want for you to consider is that the viewer that will be looking at this is future you sometime in the future looking at it. So if you're doing art for yourself, not for anybody, you're not sharing it with anybody, it's just to make you happy. I want you to make something, even if it's not perfect, even if it's just a doodle on a Post-it note. I encourage you to do art for future you. Your future you is going to love that you went through this process, that you made something, and that something makes you happy, even if the content, like if you're going through a rough time, the content might be dark, right? Or that it reminds you of a moment in time that you were really happy, or you had the time to go through this process. It's great, and I really encourage you guys to do that. Think that even if nobody else sees it, that the one person who's going to see it is you in the future, and that person is going to appreciate that you went through the effort to take care of them like that. So there you go. Ha! Yeah. So with that in mind, we're at the end of the art hour. Ha! Whew. Thank God. It's been a little bit long here. Whew. Let's see. Is there anything else? What time is it? Yeah, it's about 7 o'clock. I feel really on point today. This is exactly an hour and a half. So yeah, that is my pre-planning process. And I hope to encourage you guys to figure out your own pre-planning process. It could look totally different from mine, and I think that'd be awesome. I'd love to hear about it. So I hope that you enjoyed this art hour. I hope you enjoyed the content. And next week I will be doing the final work on this idea. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this is brought by Grandma Bling from Paparazzi. It's super pretty. I like it a lot, especially with the blue tank top. Yeah. So there we go. That's it. That's what I got for today. Squeaky chair. Ugh. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting me. I really appreciate it. And thank you for walking with me through this process as I try to figure out
like, as I really had no idea what I was going to draw. I had like I had like notes, but I did not know what that was going to look like. And what I originally planned looks way different than what I ended up with. It's got a lake and it's got a person, but it's completely different from what I originally imagined. And I love it. Um, so yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a great evening and a great week. All right, take care. Bye.